Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Co-op Podcast, episode 189. I'm your host, Richard Bailey Jr., and today I'm joined by Mr. Gary A. Swaby. How's it going, Gary?
It's going good, man. It's an important day today in the UK because they will be airing the next episode of Sherlock, and I know a lot of people in the UK have been anticipating it, so I can't wait to watch that later on. But yeah, for now, I'm happy to just chop it up about video games. So let's do it.
It sounds good. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on that Sherlock later on because I heard the first episode was not too well received.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like that.
Okay, well, we'll discuss that later. We're also joined by Mr. Jake James Lugo. How's it going, Mr. Lugo?
I'm good. There's been stuff happening this morning we're going to talk about, as well as some stuff that's going down later this week. So I'm excited. Let's get right into it.
Absolutely. And we also have a special guest appearance by Prince Noctis himself, Mr. Max Muller. How's it going, Max?
It's going pretty good. Happy to be back. School's starting. Got a lot of stuff ahead of me, but I'm looking forward to just getting back into kind of the routine after break and everything, getting everything done again.
Oh, yeah, I understand that. Starting the year off strong. Yeah. So, sounds good. Glad to have you back. Obviously, there was a lot of news that went down this week. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about what we have been playing. So, Max, I know you just got back. I don't know if you played much, but let us know if you have been playing something.
Nope, there is not much I've been playing. I had just been playing Binding of Isaac because one of the expansions came out and I didn't even get it yet, but I figured might as well get back into the game since it runs on my Mac so I can kind of play it wherever I want. And that's really all I've had time to play, sadly. But this week, that's going to change. I have a few things I want to get started this week.
Sounds good. Yeah, no problem. Sounds good at all. Sounds good. So how about you, Mr. Lugo? What have you been playing?
So I've been playing a couple different things. I could say finally, without getting into too much detail, I am playing 2 games for review right now. I'm playing the new Project Diva game for PlayStation 4. Again, Hatsumiku, for anybody that knows of that actual series or is a fan of Hatsumiku. That game, the new game that's coming out on PlayStation 4, we will have a review of that game very soon. And also, I've been playing Yakuza 0 on PlayStation 4, and we will have a review of that next week when the embargo finally lifts. I'll be able to talk about more of that on that episode of the Co-op when we actually finally record it. Besides that, I've been playing a little bit more Pokemon Sun and Moon. I actually went back to it and started playing a little bit more here and there. I had a whole conversation with a friend of mine on YouTube that we were talking about Pokemon Sun and Moon. So that's why I kind of went back and played a good number of hours of that extra, even though I'm pretty much done with the main stuff of the game. Now it's just all the extra end game side quest stuff that's like really extends the length of the Pokemon game, that whenever you dive into one, that's where you usually spend most of your time with. And then finally, also, I've been playing a lot of Street Fighter V. Again, ever since we had our impressions of Akuma go up, I've really kind of gone back into playing Street Fighter V actively, even though I complain about the game and its online play and, like, again, all the other issues that it has here and there. I've been really trying to get back in and really kind of like understand the game a little bit more and try to have fun with it as more characters are going to be coming out for the rest of the year, so we could actually be able to have content about that stuff up on the site. So that's what I've been up to lately. But again, I'm really more excited about what's going to be going down for the rest of the week.
Absolutely. Sounds awesome. I look forward to that review as well of Yakuza because I'm actually planning on picking that up as well. So definitely looking forward to that. I might as well go next because I haven't played that much, but I have been playing one game in particular that I definitely want to talk about. So I've been playing this game called Rise and Shine. It's a game that's made by, it's published by Adult Swim Games. I actually have a review for that going up later this week towards the end. I believe the embargo lifts on the 12th. So look for that. Can't say too much about it in terms of a score, so on and so forth, but I will say this. It's a very fun game. It's a game that I went into playing. I didn't really know what to expect. It is a platformer, similar to a lot of games like Max and Curse of the Brotherhood, but it is a very much adult-themed type of Saturday morning cartoon because you see like a lot of different famous characters. They have like caricatures, different characters. Like, they have their own version of Mario in the game, their own version of Link. And basically what it is it's a story that takes place on this Earth called Game Earth, where they have all these different characters, different scenarios, but there's these robots that are taking over the planet. And your job is, as a kid, is to basically fend them off, and eventually you face the person that's behind it. So I can't really say too much about it. I just say it's a very unique type of game in the sense that it is very difficult, like a lot of those platformers are. When the character gets killed, it's a very gruesome death. But still, it's because it is a cartoon stylized game, all this stuff is just like, it's really funny when you see it. Very charming. But overall, I mean, so far, I think I'm enjoying the experience. It's going to be coming to Xbox One and Steam. I don't know if it's coming to PlayStation 4 yet because the developers haven't really talked about that yet. But look for more of my thoughts on the game later this week. Aside from that, I have been playing Gears of War 4 co-op. I like to give a shout out to a few fans because some people have been trying to contact me while I've been playing that game, but I have been playing it with my brother because he just got Gears of War 4 during the holidays. So we're going through co-op. And yeah, the game is still great. However, there's one major issue with the game that I have noticed. I have not been able to have party chats with my brother now for the last 2 sessions that I've had with him. Even after he has reset the router and reset the system, the issue is still a problem. And Microsoft needs to fix that. I don't know if it impacts any other games. I believe that I did have an issue with you as well, JJ, with some multiplayer stuff with Dead Rising 4. So Microsoft, they need to fix this stuff.
Yeah, I actually had an issue too from the PC side of things because me and Edward, who's a former Koalition guy, we actually started a party together. He's on the Xbox One and I'm on PC. And we tried to invite a third party, but he couldn't actually get into the Hangout no matter who set it up. So yeah, I've been having issues with that too.
I think those are specific to those games, though. I don't think it's necessarily about Microsoft's platform or their infrastructure because my brother has recently got an Xbox One S not too long ago, and he's been playing online, doing different stuff. And we had issues like what me and you had, Rich, when we were trying to play Dead Rising 4 online. But when we tried to play other games online or when we would just talk on a party and stuff, everything would be totally fine. So I just think it's like maybe those few select games, or at least some of the more recent releases that have come out instead of just the platform as a whole.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully that is an issue that it gets resolved. It's rather annoying and frustrating when you play a co-op game and you're trying to communicate to the other person, I need you to do this while I do this. It's very, very frustrating. So I hope that if the developers are responsible, I hope they're able to work with Microsoft to figure out what the issue is. Because yeah, that type of stuff is just ridiculous. You shouldn't expect to be going through any of those type of issues. But aside from that, the game is still fun. So yeah, that's pretty much all that I've been playing this week. So Gary, how about you let us know what you've been playing?
Oh, I haven't been playing much at all myself. Just Overwatch, of course, because that's easy to fit in. And I did play GTA 5 for like 20 minutes just because I bought it on the PC a few months back, but I never actually like installed it and play it. So I wanted to try it out just to see how it looks and performs on PC. It still looks great. It holds up very well. So yeah, I might give that a whirl again and try out some mods and stuff eventually. And I also started playing Final Fantasy VI. Now I have sort of played this before, but like back then I had a shorter attention span, I guess, so I never got very far with it. So yeah, I just felt like playing it again because after I did that spoiler alert with Tony the other day, I realized like a lot of people say that this is the best one. A lot of people regard 6 as like their favorite Final Fantasy. So I just wanted to kind of go back and, see what's really great about it. And so far it's been good. I'm really getting into it. I really want to understand why people say Kefka is like one of the best villains in the series. But I haven't played enough to fully understand it yet. But he does seem intriguing from what I've seen of him in the game. So yeah, I'm about 3 hours in, so not too far. But I definitely want to keep on with it, just so I can understand why people regard it as their favorite. And that's pretty much it. But I will say that I'm gonna finally install Gears of War since you're playing it again. So then maybe we can play at some point, me, you, and Max. And I don't know if JJ has it as well, but yeah, hopefully we can team up and play some.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see if that happens. We've been talking about this since last month, so you know, we'll see. But yeah, that sounds good. So no Overwatch this week, Gary. You said no Overwatch, right?
Oh no, I did play Overwatch.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I didn't recall. I didn't know if I heard Overwatch, so I had to ask that question.
Yeah, that was the first thing I said, but I just kind of went over it quickly because that's obviously expected now that I'm going to be playing Overwatch. So I didn't spend too much time on it.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, sounds good. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you guys who did play some games for the most part sounds good. So that pretty much is all we have been playing this week. We're going to go ahead and we're going to jump right into the topics. Some of these topics we're not going to have too much to really say about because it's stuff that happened this week, but I just wanted to acknowledge that we have been following the news for those that don't think we don't follow the news. So first and foremost, news came out that Rocket League was the most downloaded game on PSN in 2016. So I like to give a congratulations to the developers. I personally haven't played Rocket League since last year when it launched on PlayStation 4. But do you guys have any thoughts on this? Feel free to go ahead.
I just think it's great. I think that I shouldn't say a large, but I think that there's some audience that kind of pushes the sales. A lot of like PC players who like get a PS4 Pro or a PS4 and they want to switch over their Rocket League, like their main system over to their new console and just kind of start over and kind of get your rank up, because generally when you start that game, like skills from other games don't really translate over. Like I like to think I'm decently good at like most games, but Rocket League, when I started that game, I was just abysmal at it. And I had it on PC and I got about 100 hours in or so. And then once it came out to Xbox, I was like, oh shit, I should buy this again and get to like a normal rank since I actually know how to play the game. And I know my brother did that as well. And I know of a few other people that are thinking about doing that. So I wonder how many of those sales are like those kinds of people, as well as just new players who just got their PS4 Pro and are just picking it up as well. I'm sure it's like a good blend of both, and it's really cool. The game's awesome, and yeah, like you said, Rich, it's great for the developers. They made a solid game, and they just keep pushing out free stuff for it. So there's always a good time to get into it.
Yeah, I can understand why it's so popular, because it's like Overwatch in a sense, because it's fun and it's competitive, and you know it's a simple concept, but it's just they implemented it so well that it's universally accepted by people, and stuff like that can really take off if done correctly.
It's easy to learn but hard to master, and it's unpredictable. Like just anything can happen. Like every game is its own thing, just like Overwatch.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Yeah, it definitely is cool. And since this was an indie game, and there's another indie game, I also wanted to congratulate Campos Santos, I believe. Yeah, the guys who made Firewatch, they also sold over 1 million copies. So glad to see that indie games are actually, selling. Firewatch is a game that I know Charles Singletary spoke a lot of highly of. He also reviewed it on the site. I just downloaded the game the other day on PlayStation, but I haven't yet played it. So maybe I'll have something to say about it next week. But yeah, just glad to see indie games do well overall. Because
you're gonna return it after your 2 hours of playing it, since you know it's so short. Remember when everyone did that? They were all complaining about how short it was, and they were gonna return it afterwards.
I do remember that. I do remember that. No, well, no, no. See, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
I mean, I will admit that I will delete the game because it is a digital download. But I will still have it in the library because I have to make room for other games coming out. You know, we know a lot of games that are coming out the rest of this year. So, and I've already upgraded my hard drive on both systems. So definitely some stuff is going to have to be deleted. But I am going to try it out because, again, I saw that there were some people that loved it, others that hated it. I know Tony Polanco did not like the game. So I want to see why it had mixed thoughts on both sides. But I'm just glad to see that the developers, you know, Rocket League and Firewatch both sold well. You know, a lot of people need to support a lot more indie games because, as I've said 9 times out of 10, sometimes a lot of those indie games are better than some of the mainstream releases. And they take a lot more risk and a lot more challenges. So people need to try out these games when they do get a chance. So any final thoughts on Rocket League before we move on to the next topic?
I'm good.
All right, so the next topic. We now officially have a release date for Injustice 2. Ed Boon sent out a tweet a few days ago stated that the game launches on May 16th. Currently expected to be on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and then, of course, they're going to have it on iOS and Android devices. They have those little companion app games. PC release also expected at some point, I'm assuming, although that was never really clarified quite yet. So do any of you guys have any thoughts on Injustice 2? Are you looking forward to it? I guess I'm going to ask Mr. Lugo first because I know he's a huge Injustice fan. So what do you think about this news?
I think it's pretty cool. One thing is that we don't know the full roster of Injustice 2. We only know a handful of characters, and I'm expecting as we get into more closer to the release date, maybe around, again, GDC and PAX East time, is that we'll actually see more of the roster, if not get the entire confirmation of the roster of characters, the DC Universe characters are going to be in there. Another thing also of note, a lot of people have been talking about who's going to be the Mortal Kombat guest character in this game. Is it going to be Sub-Zero this time around, right? Like compared to how Scorpion was in the first Injustice. Those will be interesting. And then keep in mind also, I think we touched upon this in one of our other co-op podcasts. There's also been some heavy rumors that Spawn might make an appearance in Injustice 2. Again, that's still rumor, and that's, again, at this point, just wishful thinking. But there is a lot of, like, you know, good stuff that's pointing to things like that big happening to actually make it confirmed. So I think that's pretty cool. But I can't wait. I can't wait to see who else that are from the DC Universe gets confirmed for this game. It's looking good so far. I want to see more. And I'm hoping that the story mode is longer this time and that there's more extras in Injustice 2. That was probably one of my biggest criticisms of the first Injustice. Even though I love the campaign and such, once you were done with that and then once you did, you know, your typical verses and stuff like that, there was no reason else to go back to the rest of the game.
I agree. You know, I recall we went to PAX East a couple years ago, and Injustice was there.
We did an interview with the producer of the game, I remember, that we put on YouTube.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, so, you know, I'm hopeful that it will be at PAX East this year. I'm not sure because, again, that's in March. This game is coming out in May, so I don't know if they're going to have anything ready by then, but that'd be kind of awesome if they did. We'll have to see about that. Any other thoughts on Injustice 2? Gary, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, firstly, shouts to Red Infamy, who's in the chat right now. She actually broke the Spawn story, so shouts to her. But yeah, as far as Injustice, I never actually bought the first game, but I did play it on many occasions with friends and stuff. And it was a cool game, a lot like Mortal Kombat. I can never really get with the pace of it. Like, I don't know, it was just always hard for me to adjust to the pace because I was so used to Mortal Kombat, and it's like a really different kind of pacing, like the way they move and stuff. But it's still a cool game. I never understood that, I can't remember what they call it, but there's like a gambit system or something, like something that happens mid-fight where both players have to kind of select something. I can't remember what they call it. There's a name for it. But yeah, I never liked that addition, and I hope that they simplify that and just focus on the core mechanics of the fighting itself and make it more tight-knit and a lot like Mortal Kombat, the last Mortal Kombat that came out. But yeah, and I hope that the story is completely original, because I know the first one was based on the comic and stuff. So this time around, I hope that they get to take more risks with the story and everything, and it's more interesting, because we saw what happened with Telltale Batman. You know, they were given freedom to do what they wanted, essentially, and it led to a great story. So I would love to see this be completely original in that sense. But yeah, definitely keeping an eye out for this game, and I'm looking for any opportunity to try it out at any events that I might go to. So yeah.
Very good insight. How about you, Max? Have you played any of the Injustice games?
Nah, like Gary, I played it over at a friend's house a few times, but nothing major. It was fun. I kind of got the hang of it pretty quickly, but no, I haven't really played it in a few years. I'm excited for the second one, though. I might get it depending on how well it does. Yeah, and I'm sure it'll do well. Let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Sounds good. Only thing I have to add is, pretty much I agree with you guys. I hope the story is good. I know the gameplay will be good because the first game was good. The only thing that I would say, and again, going back to Mortal Kombat, I hope that this game is not region locked on PlayStation 4, because I was disappointed that it was region locked on the last Mortal Kombat game was region locked. But I know, we'll have to see how that pans out. Obviously, if you get it on Xbox, I don't think you have that issue. But I hope that this is something they look into, because a lot more people want to play it on both systems. So other than that, though, I mean, I have positive thoughts. I mean, this is really the only game that I know of that's coming out in May so far. Obviously, we'll hear about more releases as time goes on, but definitely looking forward to it, because the first one was good. And yeah, May 1st is going to be here before you all know it. So May 16th, rather. So we'll see. So I guess we can move on to the next topic, unless anyone else has anything else to say about Injustice 2. Okay, so here's a question. We're going to talk about the Nvidia GeForce Now program that was announced earlier this week. For those that don't know, essentially what this is it's going to be a program that is it's for people who have an older PC, and also those that have a Mac, such as myself. They will be able to rent a server and play current games at different qualities. It could be ultra settings, pretty much different types of settings. I'm sure there are some limitations to that, but it's a service that they can subscribe to, pay a price. I believe I saw one price in particular was you could play 25 hours of The Witcher 3 for about $25. That type of situation. But essentially what it is going to do is it's going to allow people who have older PCs and Macs play these same games that normally they wouldn't be able to play on their system as is right now. So this is the question I wanted to ask Gary, and you can also chime in too, Max, because I know you guys are PC players. Do you actually think that this service is going to work as they have suggested? Feel free to give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I understand it is the GeForce Now service is available for Shield as like a monthly subscription for like $8 or something like that, I think.
That's correct.
Yeah, but on PC, it's going to be like a pay-as-you-go thing, so you have to kind of essentially rent the games, kind of like PlayStation Now.
Yep, pretty much just like PlayStation Now. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, that's the side of things that I don't agree with, because I think it would be more beneficial to everyone if they just had it as a subscription model, so they could be essentially the Netflix of gaming, But I'm not sure why they're doing that, but I do believe that it's a great service for those who don't have the money to upgrade their systems and they're running, some old specs or something. This is great for people like that, and people with, Macs and stuff, because then it gives them access to a lot of these games at PC level quality. And I think that's amazing right there. I'm not sure how the latency is, but just the concept of it is amazing. So I just feel like they need to get the pricing right to make it more enticing.
Actually, this IGN article says it's not based on game, it's based on the graphics card, actually. I guess it's for like $25, you get 20 hours on the 1060, the GTX 1060, or for $10, or no, for $25, you can also get $10 on the, or 10 hours on the 1080. I guess, sorry, that's worded weirdly. Yeah, so it's based on the graphics card.
Oh, okay, so you're basically paying more for like the quality of the game that's running or something.
Yep, and you get it for like 20 hours or so. I would hope that that's 20 hours of game time and not just 20 hours, you know, since playing for 20 hours straight is pretty hard. But I don't know. I think it's interesting.
What's like the most basic pricing for that?
According to this IGN article, it's just 25. It just says for 25 you get 20 hours on the 1060 or 10 on the 1080. That's literally all it says. So I don't know, but it says it'll work with most PCs and Macs. And from what I know, they have the latency down. They said that they did, so I would assume it works well. And Nvidia is pretty reliable. But just I don't know. If you ask me, $25 for 20 hours isn't really worth it. And maybe if you're trying to test out a game before you get it, or like before you upgrade to one of these graphics cards, then maybe.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Like it's a great way to test the card before you actually like buy it and stuff.
And I'm sure they're going to keep expanding it to like different cards aside from just these two. But I feel like this is for a very special type of customer. But I think that there's a place for it. Just it won't be a lot of people doing this, at least at this time. Maybe if it gets much cheaper, but not for now.
Yeah, I agree. The way you explained it is definitely like a niche thing, I think.
So I actually have a question. I will admit, as I've already said, I'm not a PC gamer, although I intend to get a PC this year. Wouldn't it just make sense to get a PC instead of going through this service? Because I was going to ask, how often do they have these graphic cards updated? Is it like a new card every single year or every other year?
There's usually like multiple cards every year.
Okay. Well, yeah, because I would just think, it makes sense to just get a good PC instead of having to constantly rely on this service. That was what my question was. So
I would say that's the best option. Just, get your own beast machine built. And I mean, I know a lot of people complain that you have to keep upgrading it and stuff, but it's really only the spec heads who care enough about that stuff that really upgrade every year or so. Like you can buy a beast PC and just, enjoy games on it for years, for at least like 3 to 4 years or so without needing to worry about upgrading it.
Like my PC is from, I want to say I got it in like 2010 or 11. It has a GeForce GT 640 in it, and I haven't upgraded it at all, but I'm still able to play like even games that come out now. Just obviously on pretty low settings, but like majority of games within the past few years, it can still play pretty well on like medium-ish to kind of high settings, actually, depending on the game and how well it's optimized. Dark Souls 3 was the first game that screwed me over. I can't play that one on there, which is why I got it on console. But unless you're playing like top-of-the-line brand new games, you can have a PC for like years and years before you like really are forced to upgrade it.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, yeah, I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. Obviously, I know most of our fans, maybe they don't care about PC or they don't talk about it, to the extent that they show that they care about it. But just to show, we have been paying attention to the news headlines because that was a major talking point this week. So I wanted to make sure we addressed that. Now let's go back to another topic that I'm sure everybody here has something to say on. Mass Effect Andromeda. We got a lot of news this week. Most important news was we have a release date, which is March 21st. They showed gameplay footage at the Nvidia show, which I actually did see, and I thought the game looked fantastic. So I wanted to ask you guys two questions in particular. The first question was, what did you think about the release date now that we know it? Because it was a rumor for a long time that it was going to be around this time when Amazon had that listing for that art book online. So I wanted to ask you guys what you thought about the release date, and then I also wanted to ask if you guys have any memorable Mass Effect moments that you can think of that you've experienced in any one of the 3 games. So, Gary, if you want to go first, any thoughts on this topic?
Wait, can you repeat that question? My bad.
All right, the first question, now that we have a release date, are you looking forward to it? What do you think about the release date? And the second question is, do you have any memories of the first trilogy that are standout times for you?
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, the release date is great, amazing. I actually didn't expect it to come out that soon. I know they were saying they were aiming for like a spring release, but I actually didn't think they would make it. I thought it would eventually get pushed back. But now they put a date on it. They would look really bad if they delayed it now. So I am excited that it's so close now. But yeah, I'm still a little concerned on how it will turn out. But yeah, for the most part, I'm excited. And like I said to Tony the other day, it's like, wow, we got Final Fantasy 15 and the next Mass Effect within like a few months of each other. That's amazing. But yeah, as for memories, I have loads. A lot of the ones that stand out right now are from the 3rd game, like when I did the whole Reaper mission, and Talazora was like my favorite character, and I actually decided to side with Legion and stuff, like, and the Get or whatever they were called, and that actually led to Talazora dying, and like I restarted that entire mission just because I didn't want that to happen. And I rarely do that because I'm a believer that the decisions you make and the consequences you get as a result, you should stick with them instead of trying to go back and redo it and everything. But in that one particular case, I had to restart because I was such a big fan of Talazora. So that's the one that sticks out right now. But there's loads of classic moments from that series. I'd like to hear some more from you guys.
Dude, that same thing happened to me with Tally. The exact same thing. She jumps off the cliff, and like I didn't realize what was happening until she was about to do it, and I thought I could maybe stop her or something, but it was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I have to say, one of my favorite memories is probably seeing Thane for the first time in the 3rd game. Like, you didn't know when he was going to pop up, and you thought he would be like maybe a cool squad member for most of the game, because in the 2nd game he was one of my favorite characters, and I know he was a lot of other people's as well. And then you see him, and his disease has progressed just worse and worse, and he's in the hospital now, and you're just like kind of depressed, and the entire time he's with you throughout the game you just know he's dying soon, and there's like nothing you can do to save him. It's kind of weird. It's like like a real life friend like dying soon, and you're just hanging out with them, and there's nothing you could do about it, and you're just like spending your last moments with them. And that's how I felt with Thane, and it was really sad, and it was really cool that they were able to pull that off and just like make me care. Like, Mass Effect is still to this day one of the only series that affected me in the way it did, with like its characters and everything throughout all 3 games, just making you like really want to hang out and spend time with them and protect them.
Yeah, and just to bounce off of that as well, like, because Thane actually, I suffer from sickle cell anemia, and his symptoms are like basically sickle cell. So just having like a character like that I could relate to in the game, because sickle cell isn't commonly talked about, not a lot of people know what it is and stuff. So that was a big deal for me also.
Wow. I'm trying to think of what else. Yeah, like you said, the 3rd game is the one that's like full frontal right now. I plan on replaying them before March because, yeah, of course I want to, but I don't know. Seeing Garrus for the first time in the 2nd game, that was badass with Archangel. and there's this guy just like shooting, and I thought it was him. Like it looked like Turian, and I was like, that has to be Garrus, but like there's still that little sense of doubt until he takes his helmet off, and you're just like, Garrus, my man, happy to be back.
Yeah, remember that. Absolutely. Mr. Lugo, any memories from you?
Yeah. First things, yeah, I'm glad that the game's coming out in March. You know, that's very, very cool. It's very close when you think about it. You know, before we know it, like February is going to just breach through and we're going to be right at Mass Effect time. So that's pretty cool. But Mass Effect was one of those series where I feel like everybody unanimously had some sort of connection to at least a few of the characters in that game. It's again, every once in a while you get that game where everybody's just so into it that there's almost like an endless amount of ways to approach it and an endless amount of discussions you could have about it. That's the coolest part about Mass Effect. Because when I first played Mass Effect, the very first game when I played it on 360, I did not like it. I didn't spend nearly as much time with it that I should have, and I didn't really understand a lot of like the stuff going into it. It was a bad place to come from to going into that game. So later on, I actually went to a friend's place and I played it on PC, and I played all 3 games straight on PC. And it was pretty insane. The biggest one that stands out to me, because I think that everybody, again, all those characters throughout that entire saga, you know, there's a bunch of moments you could probably cherry pick from. Again, so many connections to different characters. Like I even had a funny arc where at the beginning of the saga, Ashley was my romance, and then the second game I romanced Miranda, and then it came right back to Ashley in the third game. And then in the midst of that, because I thought at some point I would maybe romance Liara and such, but she ended up becoming, again, spoiler alert if you haven't played Mass Effect, she ended up becoming involved with the stuff with the Shadow Broker, and it just, again, turned into this whole grand thing that I was just so into over so much time spent with those games. But the one that really stuck out to me, and I think is the only time that I could think of in any video game that I've ever played where I, was it specifically and objectively just went back and did something on there in order to make a certain event happen, was with Mordin in the second game. If you guys remember the suicide mission, okay, where depending on what things that you choose or which characters you choose for specific scenarios, some of the characters might die if they don't have the high enough skill level for whatever the task might be. Now, in one of my playthroughs, I picked Mordin to do a specific task. And if you remember, Mordin's supposed to be the one that cures the genophage for the Krogans, because there's this big virus that's going down that's killing off the Krogans. And I was like, okay, the Krogans are kick-ass and I want to have them around and stuff. And Mordin's my guy to get stuff done. I accidentally chose him for the wrong task and he ended up killing him. And I remember being so pissed off and so upset. I was like, nope, that ain't happening. And I reloaded my save all the way back to go back to the beginning of the suicide mission. I was like, that is not happening. Mordin has to cure the genophage. This needs to happen. No, you're not doing this to me, BioWare. Like, that is not happening in my Mass Effect like that. And that's the only time I could ever remember me playing a video game where I immediately went backwards a step in order to play through it again. And I thought that was awesome because it spoke volumes to what that series is like and how good, how well designed BioWare made that game, Mass Effect 2 specifically, but also how well designed the entire saga was, because those are the things that really stuck with me throughout all my experience playing through all those games. Even going into part 3, I had so much time spent playing through the main game and playing through those DLCs, which I thought the DLCs for Mass Effect 2 were phenomenal. They were better than the other games in my opinion, but that's just my personal opinion. Some people like the stuff from 3, but I felt there was more and more, quality stuff in Mass Effect 2's DLCs than anything else. But that's what really stuck out to me. And I love the fact that I was able to experience something like that in a game, specifically from that series. It was really, really cool.
Hey, I agree 100% with everything that you guys said, but in particular, what you just said, JJ, about the suicide mission, to me, that was going to be my memory right there. Because, yeah, you definitely want to try to save everybody. Preserve everybody after you spend all this time building up these relationships. Yeah, you do grow to care about certain people, so on and so forth. So when you see someone get killed, it definitely hurts. And I recall in Mass Effect 3, all the people that didn't make it. You guys mentioned Thane earlier. Mordin is as well. They had the dramatic scene where he didn't make it. I believe he blew up in the building while he was trying to do what he did as far as trying to, I believe, prevent the, I can't remember exactly what he was doing at that moment in time, but I do remember that I had an option to try to save him and didn't really follow through on that. So it's, yeah, I mean, I know that with Mass Effect Andromeda, that the developers already said that they're starting fresh. So anything that was saved in the previous game, it will not apply to this game. I understand that to start fresh, but I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with this game in particular. I know they had a lot of statements when they made that announcement. They said that this is going to be the most ambitious Mass Effect game that they've ever done. And I look at the previous trilogy, and I really have to question whether or not that's valid, because that previous trilogy, I mean, this is a story that kept going on for 3 games, and the decisions did matter. Although the final decision, I don't really think that mattered. And
I think it mattered, though, in some scope. Granted, they went back and they patched it. Even in the original design, before all that patch stuff and that after, like, post-credits epilogue stuff was added into there, I still think, like, the decisions still mattered, because there was clearly still some sort of cause and effect that happened there. It just wasn't what everybody wanted. And I think that's what really caused the spark of controversy and the debate there. It just wasn't varied enough. I'll definitely admit that. It definitely wasn't varied enough compared to what they did afterwards.
Yeah, because it was just a fairly standard ending, and what changes is basically which character shows up where, pretty much. Like, that's all that changes.
Honestly, my biggest problem with the ending, even after they patched it, was really just how little they show of what happens afterwards. Even with the patch, I feel like they didn't show that much. Like, I wanted like a whole half hour of just like what's going on in the galaxy and everything. I think a half hour would have been like a good time limit for it too, and people would have been willing to sit there through it. Because
you wanted the Lord of the Rings ending is what you wanted. Where
exactly. Exactly. And like, I sat there for 3 games, so like, yeah, I want to sit there and see what happened afterwards. They showed just and even the stuff they showed was very ambiguous for the most part. But I don't know.
You think that in that case, do you think that they took a lot of harsh lessons coming out of Mass Effect 3 that are going into this one now? Because you can even see it now where they're blending a lot of aspects that people even mentioned from back in the first game, like the rover, the tank that was in there.
Yeah, the Mako.
The Mako, they're somewhat bringing it back now for Andromeda. Like that. Do you think like other things like that, and even stuff that what we're talking about now with the ending and the conclusion to that story, whatever it might be, and whatever that saga is going to turn out to, they'll take lessons from that and like again make it for the better?
Oh yeah, even like with the DLC in 2, I remember they added some sort of vehicle in, and I think that even that was just testing for their next game and making sure that they can nail the vehicles down, because the vehicle they added, it was like this tiny little side mission, but or a few little side missions, but it worked out really well. And the vehicle that I saw in Andromeda looks pretty similar to that thing. It looks like a blend of, I don't remember what it was called, but it like hovered around. It looked like a blend of that and the Mako from the first game. As for like the ending and stuff, I feel like their ending just won't be as divisive in the first place. I feel like they're gonna write their way into a better ending, since I'll bet with the first game, they didn't even have an ending in mind yet. Like, of course they were thinking about it, but I doubt they even had a solid ending picked out. I'll bet you with this game, they like planned out the story better, and they made sure they had like an arc that was satisfying and that the ending would like satisfy people. I bet you that was one of their biggest concerns, was the ending.
You know what I think it was also a product of too? You know what I also think it was a product of too? Was that they wanted to be a little bit more ambiguous, because they felt like they were never going to reach up to the expectations of everybody that puts so much time and investment to it. I think I remember reading something about that a while back. It was like years ago, where that came up in conversation. And I think that is always a dangerous line to kind of like walk, because you risk having the Sopranos effect where, again, you get that fade to black. Or again, look at No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky had the same problem technically with its ending recently, reaching the center of the universe. Like, everybody has their own expectations and stuff. And like, even if you decide like what in your story is going to be there, you're going to piss off a massive amounts of people. You're never going to please anybody. And I think that now for this one, not just this game, but for whatever this saga ends up turning out to be, they need to be more decisive. They need to be like, okay, this is like the different variations of the endings that could happen and stuff like that, rather than get caught up on the what ifs of like the reactions of what everybody's going to have.
Just for the record,
sorry, go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, just a quick one. Just for the record, the ending in Mass Effect 3 is 1 billion times better than the ending in No Man's Sky. I just wanted to put that out there.
Confirmed, yes. Right. I will attest to that, yes.
But yeah, go ahead, Max.
Do we know if this game is going to be like a trilogy or anything? Do we know that, or is this just going to be a contained story?
Yeah, I like to say something on that. I was going to say that yes, they were impacted by the reception with Mass Effect 3 because what they have said so far is that their goal is to make different anthologies. So that doesn't really say that it's going to be a trilogy. I mean, there may be stuff that carries over into the other games, but I think they're just going to take the approach of single storylines contained within each game. I mean, I don't know though, because they haven't really said yes or no definitively on that trilogy stance. But yeah, so what was you gonna say, Gary?
No, I didn't have anything to say. Or if I did, I forgot. I think Max was going to say something else, right?
Oh, that's what I was going to ask. I was just going to ask if we knew if it was going to be a trilogy or not. But
I remember hearing actually that it might be a self-contained story because I think
I heard trilogy for a long time. Like a lot of people were talking about that this is the start of a new trilogy, and I don't think they've ever really given a definitive answer. To be honest with you, and all the stuff that I remember reading, I don't think they have.
I think even if it is a trilogy, it might be a case where there won't be so much carrying over of data. Because I think one of the things that really stressed them out with the last trilogy was all the variables they had to bring over to each game. Like that, like to us, it doesn't seem like a lot, but like in terms of coding and development, that's a lot of variables to be dealing with. And that's probably why the ending turned out like that, because it's really difficult to take account of all those different variables and implement those into one ending that's unique for every possibility and outcome.
Yeah, they almost like limited themselves when you think about it, because they constantly had to stick with these story arcs if they didn't wrap them up previously. It's interesting. It'll just be a different style of writing, I'm assuming, if they're not gonna carry over a whole lot. Because I think you're right. I think they're gonna try and focus on not doing so much of that aside from like really, really big story arcs and not so much of the little ones.
Yeah. Now, I do have a question for you, Gary, and you guys can answer this as well. Gary, you said you have some concerns about Andromeda. What are the concerns that you have right now for the game?
My biggest one would be multiplayer and how that's going to fit into it. Like whether it's going to have any effect on the single player portion, or
they said it would. They said it would affect it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I'm definitely concerned about that because that's really important, and I would like to know more about that ahead of time. And I did have something else. I can't think today. But yeah, do you guys have any?
Well, no, I was just going to say one thing I do know is that they said that it will not have a season pass, so they're not going to be charging people.
Oh yeah, that was the other thing I was going to say. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, they're not going to have a season pass, so people won't have to worry about being charged for additional content, which I think is a practice that a lot of companies need to really consider. But you was going to say something, Max?
Yeah, they did say that they're going to talk about DLC later on. Hopefully that'd be free, like the multiplayer DLC was free. I think that's how it was for the third game, unless I'm completely tripping. But I know that the third game, like I feel like the multiplayer, they said it would have a big effect, but I feel like it didn't really affect it that much. Like I know that you had that like kind of map and you had to keep everyone fighting or something. I don't remember exactly how it affected it. I just remember I feel like it didn't do that much in the first place. I feel like because I played a lot of the multiplayer and I remember being kind of disappointed at how little my stats were changing in the first place, aside from when compared to the single player where everything was drastic. But I don't know, it could totally affect it in a different way because this isn't a galaxy-wide war anymore. It's, self-contained. It'll be interesting to see how it affects it. Like maybe like you'll have different gangs that you fight in the multiplayer, and then in the single player, those gangs will be like spread out differently or have less members depending on how you fight them. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, another thing was going to be like the DLC and stuff. Cause it's great that it's going to be free. I like that. That's a positive right there. But I really want to know how they plan on approaching it. Because one thing BioWare does actually do really good expansions when they're not under pressure from EA. Like they're really good at expansions and extra content. So I just hope that EA doesn't, pull any strings here and affect the quality of the DLC and expansions that they add into the game.
Was BioWare's last big game Inquisition? Have they come out with anything since then?
Yeah.
Like big?
Was Banner Saga 2 them? I can't remember who.
No, oh no, oh no, that's
Oh no, it's they've
Square.
got people who worked at BioWare before,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, former
Okay.
former people. Yeah, so yeah, the Dragon Age Inquisition
Dragon
was
Age.
the last game.
Cool. From what I know, that DLC was pretty good. I still have to play that game. I was actually considering playing that soon, but I still have to play through Mass Effect again, so we'll see. In Final Fantasies.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely glad to get a Mass Effect release date. I did say, I made a joke as soon as they made that announcement. I said, "Oh, this game is probably going to get delayed." But then I saw the Nvidia conference and I saw the footage they showed. I said, "Okay, I think maybe they're confident this game is going to come out at that time because they kept saying over and over again March 21st." So that's good. So looking forward to the game. I still, I am going to remember the statement they said in that press release, with which they said the most ambitious game ever. I am going to remember that, and I'm going to hold them to that statement because when the game does come out March 21st, and if it has a couple of things that I don't think are good, you best believe I'm definitely going to come right back to this show and say it. So, but I am happy that it has a release date. Looking forward to seeing how it turns out, and hey, March will be here before we all know it. So, any final thoughts on Mass Effect Andromeda before we move on to the next topic?
Yeah, like Max, I would love to replay the first trilogy again before that game comes out. But they're so
They need to
time-consuming.
re-release it on PS4 and Xbox One. They really do.
On Xbox, it's on EA Access. That's what I'm planning on playing it on. They when they announced Andromeda, like back in November or whatever, when they showed the gameplay, they were like, "Oh yeah, it's available on EA Access now." So I'm gonna do that and download it. But for PlayStation 4 players, yeah, I don't really know what you guys can do.
Wait a second.
It's only on PS3. It's only on PS3 as far as I know. The trilogy you could buy. What I'm saying is they need to bring that and port it over to PS4. That'd be great.
No, wait a second. You have an option. PlayStation.
PlayStation. No. No, but in all seriousness, they really should. And I think it'd be great. It'd be awesome, again, if they announce that as, again, you could download off of PSN right around the time that Andromeda comes out or right beforehand. That'd be kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because even the EA Access ones, it's just the backwards compat. But it's still available, which is cool because I don't have my copies anymore. So I'm just going to download it.
So is it safe to say, Max, that you're going to get Mass Effect on Xbox One, or are you going to get a PlayStation 4?
I doubt I'll be able to get a PlayStation 4 before that. Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up. Did you guys see that on Xbox it's 900p and on PlayStation it's 1080p?
Yes, yeah, I did see that. I did see that, and I'm glad you did bring that up. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that. Obviously, PC is the best version of the game, and I'm pretty sure Gary will get it on PC, so he doesn't even care about the 900p 1080p stuff.
Yeah, I plan on getting it on PC, and hopefully I'll have an upgraded card by then as well. So yeah, I'm pretty much set. But as for that, I mean, 1080p to 900p, it's really not that big a deal anyway. You won't notice the difference. Frame rate is what really matters. So hopefully it's stable and everything.
And also, Max, one thing I did want to say, which I'm pretty sure you also know, is that the devs said they have no plans to bring this game, an enhanced version of this game, to Scorpio. So I don't know. And we're going to mention that later because they also made a comment about Nintendo Switch. So we'll get into that later. But
are they in bed with Sony or something?
No,
not that I know of.
I mean, I just think this is a very simple thing. I think if people demand it, then they will work to ensure that they put that feature in there. But I mean, people who have, I believe those who have EA Access, they will be able to play Mass Effect early anyway because they'll have the trial. So
yeah, we get it 3 days early or something.
Yeah, see, I'm fine with that. That. But yeah, I just wanted to ask those quick questions because I mean that was one of the biggest announcements this week. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, I also quickly just wanted to represent for my PC people and say they actually released Mass Effect 2 for free so like you could go
Oh,
get
yeah.
that for free
yeah.
on PC. So make sure you get EA Origin and check those games out.
Absolutely. Really, they should have released all of 3 games for free, if you ask me. But yeah, that's good. Mass Effect 2 is awesome game, so that's good.
Yes, it is.
So, any final thoughts before we move on?
I'm good.
Yeah. So, BioWare, EA, if you're watching this, you know that we heavily endorse Mass Effect Andromeda. You need to remember us when you drop that game, and make sure you send us a review copy. So, let's move on to the next topic. Gary, he was waiting for me to discuss this topic because he was the most excited of everybody in this chat. PlayStation made a couple of major announcements this week. They announced that they sold 53.4 million consoles since January 1st of 2017. So over the holiday break, they sold all these consoles, and they also announced that Uncharted 4 has now sold more than 8.7 million copies as of December 21st, 2016. So I would like to give a congratulations to Sony and PlayStation. I know we have a lot of fans that listen to these podcasts and they think, well, some of these guys, they only care about one console over the other. I've said multiple times, I love PlayStation. I love Xbox. The only console that I have an issue with is Nintendo because I don't own a Nintendo and I may not own a Switch. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, definitely we give props to companies when they do well. And we also criticize. I mean, that's how you're supposed to do things. So I wanted to give props to PlayStation for the PS4 sales. The holiday sales, no doubt, they killed the competition, if there is competition, for those of you that still think there is competition. So we definitely wanted to address that. But Gary, you had any thoughts? I know you was very excited for me to bring up this topic. So let's hear what you have to say about this.
Oh yeah, I was ecstatic about it for sure. Like, because I remember the last reading was they sold like 50 million consoles, and that was in like November or December or something. So they pretty much sold like 3 million copies like in like a month or so. Like that's incredible. I gotta clap it up. Congrats Sony. Like congrats to Sony. I hope they can continue this momentum in 2017. I really hope so. I hope that they bring out a lot of quality exclusive titles for people to enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, let me just say a real quick comment. Like I said, we had a couple of articles that went up this week on the site. One article in particular was about all the PlayStation 4 games coming out this year. The exclusive games. I know there are a lot of sites that put out an article and they mentioned the third-party game also, even though it's a game that's also coming to Xbox One. But my article in particular was focused on the PlayStation 4 games. I did want to say, again, that is an impressive lineup of games, most of which we already have release dates for. But yet, I know that last week when we did an episode and we made Xbox and Nintendo one of the main topics, I also did an Xbox article, and that Xbox article has gotten the most responses compared to the PlayStation 4 article. So in a sense, you could say what we said last week about Microsoft and Nintendo dominating the headlines, that is exactly what happened with those articles because the Xbox article got a lot of attention. The Sony article got some attention as well, but not as much as the Xbox one did. But with that said, who cares, right? That's the new hashtag for this year. But yeah, I'm glad that PlayStation sold, did extremely well over the holidays. I'm very glad that Uncharted sold extremely well. And, I believe we've said on this show multiple times that Uncharted 4 is a console seller. The bundles that I saw this holiday season were Uncharted bundles. So, I mean, that's not really a surprise. I mean, I'm glad that Uncharted did well. I mean, that is a flagship franchise on the PlayStation brand. So it's not really too surprising. I mean, you could say the number is surprising because, again, these are global sales numbers. We have to make sure we mention that. This is the global sales thing. Okay, so we have to make sure that we do mention that. But I like to give a congrats to Naughty Dog. The game was good. I mean, we've already said it. We've already talked enough about Uncharted 4. The game wasn't perfect, but it was an excellent game. I mean, it had its flaws like most games, but a great game and a fantastic console. So I'm glad that both the PlayStation 4s sold well as Uncharted 4. But yeah, any other comments on this particular topic?
Yeah, Uncharted 4 is definitely a solid game. You know, I was a big fan of the action sequences in the latter half of the game. There's some excellent stuff on there. Graphically, it's amazing as well. I'm sure it's amazing on PS4 Pro as well. Definitely not the strongest in the Uncharted series, but yeah, I could see why it would sell that much. But I do think there's a lot more games that were deserving. But, you know, it was bundled. So, hey. It's just good marketing, I suppose. But what does JJ think of all this? He's been quiet.
All I can really say is that, again, like I mentioned when we were doing our Game of the Year for 2016 podcast, Uncharted 4 is a must-own on PlayStation 4. It's a very high-quality game. I think that's a game that if you own the system, everybody should play it. Even if you don't own a Sony platform like that and you know a friend that's into gaming and stuff, that's a game I feel like you need to play at some point. So, and the numbers are telling. A lot of people are getting it. It's really a testament to what can be done on the console right now at this point in time. I still think we haven't gone into like the nitty gritty of like what the PlayStation 4 is capable of. I think we got a long way for that. But Uncharted 4 is definitely a good step in the right direction. And again, people are buying it. People bought it clearly for Christmas. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, you know, yes, you have to give Sony props for the console sales as well as Uncharted 4 sales. You know, we know Naughty Dog is a fantastic studio. So, I mean, I'm glad. I mean, I don't know why anyone would think that I wouldn't like to hear this news. I mean, I'm glad. I'm very happy. And I have a PlayStation 4. I mean, there's a lot of games coming out this year I'm looking forward to. If you need to get a detailed overview of all the games we're looking forward to, we have an article on the site we will gladly direct you to. But, yeah, I mean, just wanted to make sure we did mention them, give them props because they deserve that respect. And no doubt about it, there's a lot of great software that's coming out this year. So I anticipate that they're going to continue to sell very well throughout the rest of the year. So we'll see how that goes. But any final thoughts before we move on to the next topic?
No, I can't wait for Gran Turismo Sport. I really can't wait to play that.
Yeah, let me also take the time to give a shout out to Tatiana because she has been at CES last week. She did a fantastic job on her coverage. She actually wrote up an article about Gran Turismo Sport, so definitely check that out as well because, I mean, I did see that was one article that was getting a lot of attention today. So definitely check that out. Let us know your thoughts on PlayStation 4 titles that you're looking forward to as well because we're very interested in that news. So let's move on to the final topic for this week. And obviously, everyone knows that the Nintendo Switch, this is going to be one of the major news stories, you know, this week, you know, in the next couple of days. You know, they have the reveal that's going to happen later this week on Thursday. We are going to be having a React podcast after that show, after that goes down to give our thoughts, our immediate reactions to what took place. But wanted to definitely talk about it. And I know JJ has some information that he received today about the Switch. So JJ, why don't you start us off with some new details that you've learned about Nintendo Switch?
Okay, so yeah, some stuff came out early this morning, and it's coming from Japanese publisher Nikkei. Now, Nikkei has been notorious for pretty much bringing us news straight from Japan, you know, about the Japanese market. That also tends to run hand in hand with what's going on with the European market, as well as also here in the United States and North America. And one of the big pieces of news that's come out now, which I think we're going to get confirmation for later this week, is the price of the Nintendo Switch. Now, it hasn't been officially confirmed just yet. I think we have to say that, and we have to be cautious with that because things change up even at the 11th hour whenever something big like this is going to go down. But basically, Nikkei published today in one of their articles is that the Nintendo Switch is going to be costing 25,000 yen in Japan. That roughly equates to, here in the United States, around $213, which kind of falls in line with a lot of the rumors about the Nintendo Switch being priced at around $250 here in the United States. Now, the reason why I say that it kind of works out right like that is because in Europe, the thing has been pretty much, said to be around the same price, around 250 euros. I think that the euro to dollar ratio is 1-to-1. So a lot of people are saying like, oh, this seems to be matching up here and there. But the reason why I say that, even though the straight conversion is $213 from 25,000 yen, is roughly going to be $250 here in the United States, is because I don't think that Nintendo is going to put the Switch priced at $199.99. I don't think it's going to happen. If it does, it'd be great. It'd be phenomenal. And I think that'd be an awesome price point, yet they'll probably still be selling the console at a loss, even though that people will get excited about that. But I still think like $250 seems like the most reasonable amount of price point for the console itself without being bundled with the game. Now, we obviously don't know if the game if the console is going to be launched with another game bundled together with it. Like, I don't think we're going to get, even though I want it, I don't think at launch we're going to get a bundle with like The Legend of Zelda or New Mario or anything else that might be available at launch. And especially, I don't think we're going to get the Switch bundled with a game that's getting ported over from the Wii U to the Nintendo Switch like that. I don't think that's going to happen. So what I think we're going to have is that next week, or this week, I should say, on Thursday, when the actual presentation goes down, they're going to talk about the price point, and that's what's going to be the price for the console, the core console itself. And then whenever the release date is, because they're still saying that the release date might still be within the springtime between March and April, like that, that's what we're going to get from the Nintendo Switch console in stores that you'll be able to buy, and maybe around sometime beforehand be able to pre-order. As far as games are concerned, I still maintain the fact that we're still going to get a confirmation that Zelda might be launched around that launch time for the console, and then one other surprise game that we just don't know about right now, besides whatever ports we're getting to the Nintendo Switch. But that was the big news that went down. Again, there's been leaks and rumors floating around all over the place. I know a lot of people have been going to Laura K. Dale and a few other individuals about different news regarding the Switch, because again, she did this big leak not too long ago, that which some of it looks like it's about to be confirmed, or some of it looks like it's about to be true based off all the other previous information. But right now is a super sensitive time. So I think like within the next few days, we're going to hear about another big deal besides the Switch price point. Maybe we might hear more about battery life. Maybe we might hear more about the other specs regarding the console, if not more confirmations about launch titles before Nintendo finally opens up the bag, or at least opens up the box about whatever this console is.
Yes, sounds good. Now, I have two questions in particular I want to ask you guys. So this is ahead of this, ahead of the actual reveal later this week. So I want to ask you guys, let's assume that the price point that you guys mentioned already is correct, between $199 and $249. Would you guys pick up the Switch on day one, or do you think it's something that you will hold off until later to actually buy?
I'm not going to get it day one, but I think that $250 is an awesome price for it. Like the only thing affecting me not getting it day one is just I don't have the desire to have like a Nintendo console right now, unless like there's like a crazy like must-have new game. Like the Zelda might be. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I also have my roommate who's probably going to pick it up day one if it's that cheap. So that would hold me over a bit until I would get my own, of course.
Yeah, I completely echo Max there. That's a great price point if true, but I wouldn't be in a rush to get it. I still want to see that lineup of games that they're going to be bringing. Pokemon in particular is definitely one that could get me to buy the system. So, I'll be keeping an eye out to see what they do with that. But yeah, I am interested in the Switch and the idea of the Switch, but I just want to see more. And, even then I probably won't get it on day one, but eventually I'll probably consider getting it.
Now, here's another thing I want to bring up that I should have mentioned before, and I just realized I forgot about it. Some other news came out, I think it was like a day or two ago, that the presentation itself is going to roughly be around close to an hour. Now, this falls in line somewhat. It's between 40 minutes to about an hour, give or take here and there. Okay, so usually sometimes they run a little shorter, sometimes they run a little bit longer. The Nintendo Directs are notorious for that, and the same thing goes for their E3 presentation. Every time they do a Direct during E3, they did it last time when we were actually there, so it falls in line with that. But I feel like they're going to divulge a lot of information about the console itself. I still think we're going to get those confirmations about launch games and launch titles, whatever the launch lineup's going to be for the Switch. And again, I think they're going to get around with the obvious, and they're going to put an extensive amount of focus on like stuff like Zelda or whatever the new Mario title is, even though we don't really know much about the new Mario title. But I feel like that's what's going to be the bulk of that presentation, besides showing off the console, showing off its capabilities. You'll probably have a thing from either like Reggie and I also know Kirishima for the Japanese presentation. He's going to be the one presenting it. He's going to be the one speaking about the Switch itself. So at least that's what's going to be a big deal. So he'll probably be like holding onto the console, probably talking with another person over there, maybe Miyamoto, and actually showing all the different types of like capabilities with it. But I feel like that's going to be the bulk of it. And like all the other stuff that we really want to know, battery life, what's inside the console itself, the guts of it and stuff like that, is going to come much later on. I don't think you're going to get stuff like that in this presentation. It's going to be a much more cleaner, kind of more in line with how the other directs are. But like the other like nitty gritty information we're going to get from other sources.
All right, that sounds interesting. I mean, I know, like again, if they are intending to launch this console soon, I will hope that they give us a ton of information on everything so that we know going into March, if it is indeed coming out in March or April. I mean, that's pretty much around the corner. So I hope that we get as much information as possible, because I mean, they really have to sell us on this device. But no, Mr. Lugo, to answer the question, so are you planning on getting the Switch day one, or do you think that this will be something you'll wait until, you know, you have a better idea of what the lineup is and what Nintendo's doing with the console?
Depending on, you know, with stuff, you know, not only with us here, you know, because we're going to events and stuff within the next few months and stuff. If things like that work out pretty good, then yes, I'll get a day one. Now, specifically, if it's $250, I mean, I still think that's a great price point, and then I would have to get a game after that, whatever game we're going to be covering around launch and stuff. But if it's $200, I think that's a phenomenal price point. I just don't think it's realistically going to happen, because again, the one-to-one conversion of 25,000 yen is about $213. That seems like a very odd number. That's just like, you know, a little bit out of left field. But again, if they decide to go lower than that to $199, that's a great price point and very appealing for a lot of people out there that maybe have bought a Wii U, maybe even late, and feel a little bit burned with like how stuff is kind of like, you know, turning out and how they're moving on to the new hardware. But even if it's that much more cheaper, and again, you could go out and buy a game with it on day one when you get your console, that's very appealing to a lot of people that may not be so diehard Nintendo, because the diehard Nintendo people, they're going to ride or die with some of the stuff there. They're going to be out there day one probably lining up. Not all of them, but a good chunk of them. And then everybody else will follow suit later on, depending on whatever the launch lineup is going to be for the Nintendo Switch. But for me personally, yeah, I'd be down to get a day one. Especially if Breath of the Wild is available at the launch of the Nintendo Switch, that's awesome. Especially if they have a Mario title available at the first couple days of the Switch, that's awesome. Even if they have something like, you know, Splatoon, because I know Splatoon was shown in the trailer for the Nintendo Switch a while back, and something like Smash Brothers, I still think that's pretty good. I don't want it to be the sole focus of the console around its launch, because I still feel that you need that one game that's a brand new title to get people to jump on board and stuff. So I'm hoping it's not like where, you know, with other Nintendo platforms, like later in the life cycle, like maybe a month or so later, we started getting like Smash Brothers Melee on GameCube, when Smash Brothers Melee should have been a launch title for the GameCube. I don't want it to be kind of like in that same vein, like the game that you really want is not available for you right when you go get it on the store on day one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I do agree that I still maintain the belief that if you have a good launch title, you'll definitely convince me I need to pick it up. Obviously, that's not true for everybody, because anytime new hardware comes out, everybody will pick up that new hardware, especially if it's getting a lot of attention. And I'm pretty sure that with the Nintendo Switch, this is the same thing. They may not necessarily have a lot of great launch titles, but they could still end up selling and still be a hot item if they are going to come out in March, April, around that timeline. Same thing with Scorpio as well. But I also think that, you know, they're probably going to make it a point to try to have some particularly good launch games. And I believe Nintendo will too. I mean, we'll know more about the lineup, obviously, in the next couple of days. But one thing I will say is that I may surprise a lot of people. And I'm not looking at the chat right now, so I don't know what people are saying. But I actually am going to pick up the Switch when it does come out at launch, depending on when it actually comes out, because I feel as though in order to give a true opinion of what the console has to offer, I have to actually play it. I can't look at someone playing it and then come on this show or any other show and tell people, yeah, the console is it's good or it's horrible. I mean, I have to get hands-on time with it. Now, obviously, it is going to be at PAX. You know, we are going to PAX East, so it will be at there on the floor. We'll be able to talk.
It's also at PAX South. We should mention that very soon PAX South is coming up. It's going to be playable there in demo kiosk for people, as well as also, I think, GDC.
Oh, yeah. For everyone that is going to PAX South, it is, they are going to be able to try it out as well. Obviously, none of us are going to PAX South, so I won't be able to say anything about that. But PAX East, absolutely, we'll have something to say about it by then. I mean, I do intend to pick it up at launch because I want to give Nintendo a chance to see if they can win me back over. I've said multiple times that Nintendo, I feel as though they haven't really made any games in particular that I'm interested in. I mean, I have respect for a lot of the franchises they do have, Mario, Zelda, so on and so forth, but I haven't really seen a game that I absolutely want to get that system for. So I'm going to give them a try with the Switch and see what happens. Now, we'll see what happens, but I mean, I think they can do some interesting things with the device, but it all depends with the lineup for me. Not for everybody, but just for me in particular. One other question I did want to ask you guys related to software, so on and so forth. We know that there are a couple of developers that have already said that their games most likely won't be coming to the Switch. Obviously, that can change because, as I said earlier on this show, if the people demand it, pretty sure a developer can work to get a game out on that device. So 3 games in particular we know have already been confirmed to not come to Switch as of now. This could change. That is, of course, Yakuza 0, Persona 5, and Mass Effect Andromeda, because the developers have all said that they have no plans for a Nintendo Switch release. But obviously that could change. So I wanted to ask you guys this question. Do you believe that this device is going to have better third-party support? If you had to make a guess, do you think it's going to do better better than the Wii U has done? Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I'm having a bit of deja vu because, like, I remember when the Wii U launched, there was flow charts and posters and banners and everything showing all these companies that would be developing for the system and stuff. And then, of course, we know what happened after that. So I'm just hoping that, you know, this isn't a reoccurring thing and that this time around there actually will be decent third-party support, because I think with the Switch, the games that are actually going to come out on the system are an important part of, you know, buying decisions, especially mine. Like, I want to know that it's going to have quality titles that are optimized for that particular platform before I actually buy into that console. So yeah, that's my thoughts.
I was going to say that, yeah, I'm kind of in a little bit of agreement with Gary here, because this is almost the exact same scenario when the Wii U was still coming out like that. And they came out and they had that big B-roll with a whole bunch of games that's shown, and a lot of them didn't end up not showing up on the console, which I thought was funny back then, even now. But the reason why I think like this time it's going to be a little bit different is because of a number of different things. Number one, I feel like there's been a very, very big shakeup and turnaround for Nintendo behind the scenes, especially in the wake of Iwata's death. I think I've talked about it here on the co-op before and in a couple of our other podcasts, where, you know, not only did the death of Iwata really kind of have a big impact on Nintendo itself, you know, on the management over there, but also I think that even now towards the end of the Wii U's life cycle, there's been a lot of different things that I'm pretty sure Nintendo has taken a lot of note of. You know, after all this happened, and again, towards the end life cycle of the Wii U, we start to notice very big things we never thought would happen with Nintendo beforehand. Again, they showed up at an Apple event. They released a mobile app, their first mobile app, or technically their second, but their first mobile game, I should say, Super Mario Run. Then they had Miitomo beforehand that. Now they were getting other stuff like this. This is a very different mindset for Nintendo than what we're accustomed to. And I feel like not only a lot of that is being put into the Switch itself, even though we don't know a lot of different things about the Nintendo Switch, the console itself, but you could start seeing a lot of the changes being made, you know, in subtle ways here and there from Nintendo. And I think like we're going to start seeing that also in the amount of third-party support that we're starting to, well, that we're probably going to get for the Switch. We've seen other third-party, companies and different representatives talk about the Switch in various different ways. They've talked about it, again, much more positive than what they did with the Wii U, which I think is a great sign. Obviously, we know there's developer kits out there for the Nintendo Switch. There's been confirmations here and there from various different sources saying that devs have their hands on the Switch right now, and they've been developing games for it. I mean, I think Sega even confirmed. I think Sega was one of the first developers or publishers to confirm that their game, their new Sonic game, was going to be on the Nintendo Switch when they still had that logo for the NX that was just randomly thrown in there and stuff. But like, there's different things like that. So I think that stuff is going to be different this time around. Even though it might not seem that way, we'll know once the ball starts to get rolling. But things are looking a little bit better this time.
Yeah, I hope you're right about that. And yeah, Max actually raised an interesting fact in the chat. He said, it's going to be a lot easier to develop for this time around. So that's actually true. So I hope that means developers will stick around and support the system. I just don't want it to be a case of, the games are exactly the same as they are on PS4 or PC. Like, I want them to actually, to optimize it and do something different and exclusive for the, that system. Because otherwise it's going to be a case of I might buy the system, but then I'm going to buy all these third-party games on another system anyway. So I hope that they do a lot of unique things with it.
I think that was the biggest problem before, yeah. Oh, no, go ahead, Max. Sorry.
I think that it's important to note that at least no one I know or have ever even heard of gets Nintendo systems for they get Nintendo systems for the Nintendo games, and they keep another system around for third-party games. And I feel like that's not really going to change here. Like, yeah, it's cool. Like someone in the chat was saying Stardew Valley is coming to the Switch, which is a cool purchase, and you could get that on anything else. But I could see someone getting that for the Switch itself. Like, especially if with that on the go thing, if that thing has like decent battery life, I could totally see people doing that. But I think it is important to note that most of the time people are getting the Nintendo system for Mario and Zelda and whatever other exclusives they come out with for it.
Yeah, that's very true. But like, I kind of want them to break that cycle. Like, I want a third party, publisher to be like, okay, we're making this game, but it's just going to be exclusive for the Switch.
Well,
like,
hold on.
Can't get it on any other system, kind of thing.
Well, actually, let me just so you stay on that topic. I have a question for you now, because I have seen a couple of things. Obviously, none of this stuff is confirmed, but what if Nintendo took the same approach as Microsoft? They had an exclusive that was on Switch for a year, and then it came to other platforms. Would you have a problem with that, or do you think that people would gravitate towards the Switch version because it's out now, or would they just wait for it to come out on PlayStation 4 or Xbox One because they figure, well, that'll probably be a better version anyway?
I mean, it would be great business if they could do that, because that's what Max said is one of my biggest concerns with Nintendo systems, because I understand that there are people who are just fans of those exclusives like Zelda and Mario and all those types of games. But I'm not particularly a fan of those types of games, but I do want to support Nintendo. So I just want to see I want to see a variety of unique games on the system, because I don't like buying a system and just having it sit around until, this game comes out or this game comes out, every twice a year or something. There might be like a game that I buy for it. Like, I don't think that's good value for money personally. But yeah, I just want to see more third-party developers do, exclusive things with it, and the timed exclusivity would help it a lot, because at least then there would be, more stuff to look forward to that you can't actually get on another platform at that particular moment. So that would definitely help.
And they could do some pretty cool stuff with the two screens, like they do with the DS. And they can make it so like the game is different when it's portable. Like when you have to go, it could be like more of a mini game that benefits you in the main game once you get back home, and have them like play on both screens and stuff. I don't know. They could do so much cool stuff with it. I agree. I hope that cycle like breaks, because that is kind of shitty to get a console just for like very few specific games and not be able to play anything else on it. And I think they try to do that too. Like, remember Zombie U? Like, they tried to do cool stuff like that, just the games usually aren't very good.
All right, I think JJ has something to say.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say to all your guys' points, there's two different things about that, okay? Number one, I think that was one of the Wii U's biggest problems. Outside of like the messaging and everything else that we've all complained about in regards to the Wii U, I think a lot of it also was that because during the development of some of those games and porting games over from other platforms was that it was not easy and that it wasn't as simple as just bringing something over to make it play the exact same way. We've had games on the Wii U's library, like Injustice, like Batman Arkham City, and other games like that. Again, just to name a few that did work, almost one-to-one, similar to like how their other console counterparts worked. But I think that was one of the problems where developers had such a big issue just bringing it over to the Nintendo's infrastructure and to the Nintendo console, because it wasn't going to play the same. You had to implement something involving the dual screen. You had to do all these other things and jump through all these other hoops in order to get your game working right or working well on that platform. I think that's obviously going to be a big change for the Nintendo Switch, because one of the big things that people have brought up is that this is going to have your console quality games that you play at home with you on the go because of the dual ability of the Nintendo Switch, playing both at home and also bringing that little tablet with you on the go. I think that's going to play a big part into it, because that brings in the idea of Dark Souls, Skyrim, the NBA game that we saw in there, Splatoon, any game that you can think of with you on the go that's still your home console quality game, despite it being on a small screen. The other thing, too, to Rich's question, okay, one of the reasons why I don't think that's really possible with Nintendo, and especially with the Nintendo Switch at this point in time, is because of the install base. Obviously, the console hasn't come out, so it's very hard to tell with that. But even with the Wii U, you could tell, especially between everything else and all those other problems coming to a head, the install base just wasn't there. So that's why you weren't really seeing a lot of exclusive games coming from third parties on the Nintendo Wii U. There were some. There were a couple, definitely, okay? Platinum Games had one of the best ones, in my opinion, The Wonderful 101, or, something like that. And then you had some really bad ones like Sonic Lost Worlds here and there. Like, there's a big spectrum there and stuff. But I don't think you're really going to see like a timed exclusive on a Nintendo platform for quite some time. And I don't think early on in the Nintendo Switch's life cycle, because third-party developers that make games for multiple consoles want people to own those consoles so they can play their games. They want them to buy them there. So if obviously there's more people on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, those are the first platforms they're going to go to when they talk about exclusivity. And bringing up your point, Rich, because this is part of the question on which we were talking about, games like Yakuza 0, Persona 5, Mass Effect are not coming to the Switch at all. They're confirmed not going to be on that platform, at least at this point in time. Granted, those are huge series. People love those series. I love Persona 5. I'm looking forward to Persona 5. I played it at PSX. I'm excited about that game. But right now, at this point in time, I don't think I'm going to be like stopping my checks to go pick that up on the Nintendo Switch just because it's a new platform like that. And I think Atlas and Sega know that same idea. So they're going to put it on where the most people own those consoles right now. It's taking a risk on new hardware, as opposed to actually putting something out that people have already that they're going to buy it for immediately. And it's not going to be such a big risk for the consumer themselves.
Hey, makes perfect sense. Very good points all around.
Also, people are going to want to play these games with their friends as well. And they already probably have their friends on their console of choice, and they're going to need everyone to go over to the Switch as well if they're going to try and get like a Call of Duty or even Mass Effect if they're interested in the multiplayer aspect, if it were to come to the Switch, of course. But games like that with multiplayer, or even for chat alone, even with single player games, they're going to want to chat with their friends and stuff. So that's going to be another thing that has to happen, is like groups are going to have to buy the Switch in order for like not exclusive, but third parties to like really take off on it, and multi-platforms really take off.
Oh, yeah. No, agreed. One thing I was going to say is that, I do hope that you are correct, Mr. Lugo, about what you said about the timed exclusives not coming, because I'm not really a fan of the timed exclusive stuff that has been happening. Microsoft will get a game like Dead Rising 4 before PlayStation 4, and then it ends up on PlayStation 4 next year. They did the same thing with Tomb Raider last year as well, back in 2015. So I want that stuff to actually I want that to be done and over with. But obviously, it's all about business, and I think Microsoft may continue to do that, Sony may also. So, but yeah, I hope Nintendo doesn't do that because, you know, if they do get an exclusive, I would prefer it stay on their platform. But, you know, we'll see. It's all, like you say, it's all about a situation where once the developers see how well the device is doing, whether it's a commercial success or a failure, that will determine whether or not they decide to put their games out on that platform. But we'll see.
True.
We'll see what happens. But I mean, I just want to make it clear, you know, I am hopeful for Nintendo. You know, I know I have talked bad about Nintendo in the past, but we'll see what happens with this device. I'm hoping that they do succeed, because, you know, I grew up on Nintendo. That was the first console that I had when I was a kid. So I am hopeful that they are going to come back to the forefront. But, you know, we have to be realistic and see what they actually bring to the table. So we'll see what happens.
I'm telling you right now, you know, as like a final point I want to make, the very first couple months, or at least the first year of the Nintendo Switch, is not going to be a strong year. I bet. Granted, people are going to be excited about when the platform comes out at first, and I think the launch titles, whatever the lineup's going to be, is going to be a really big deciding factor of that. But again, like every other console within its first launch year, like that, it's almost always a slow start before it really starts to pick up when you start getting into the meat of the lifetime of that console. And I think for the Nintendo Switch, it's going to be dependent on whatever the strong Nintendo first-party games are. Again, if people get the Metroid title that they've been clamoring for a long time, if Nintendo finally develops something like that, because remember, rumor was that we're supposed to be getting a 2.5D Metroid game that's like traditional Metroid on the Nintendo Switch. Again, that rumor's been floating around forever at this point. But if you start getting experiences like that and you start getting those consoles in different people's homes, okay, people that may have bought already a Wii U, or maybe people who skipped out on the Wii U like that, then that's when you're going to start seeing a lot of the talk about third-party exclusives or third-party exclusive deals for a certain amount of time and stuff like that.
Very good point. Absolutely good point. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Well, I mean, we'll know in a couple of days what more about the Switch, and in terms of what kind of games may potentially be launch titles. So I look forward to that. But any final thoughts on this topic before we wrap up the show?
No, I'm excited for Friday, really, because that's when the event is actually happening. It's going to be 4 a.m. Friday for me. So
it's like Thursday night for us here in the U.S. It's like really late. It's like midnight in the United States. So it's like really late for everybody. We're going to be up mad early checking this out.
Yeah, I'm going to try and wake up early for that one. But yeah, I'm excited.
Okay. How about you, Max? Any final thoughts?
No, not really. I'm excited just as well. Gonna be staying up for it. It'll be cool.
Yeah. So just to recap, you know, again, we will be having a react after this airs. Now, obviously, it's going to be late. You know, I don't know who all is going to still be awake at that time, but we definitely will have some immediate reactions to what we see. So stay tuned for that later in the week. But that concludes our episode this week of the Co-op Podcast. We thank you all for listening and watching, and for those that also saw it live, commenting as well. Any final shout outs that you guys want to give? How about you go first, Max?
As usual, happy to be back on the show. Happy that we're back to a weekly format. And thanks to everyone in the chat. We had some pretty good conversations in the chat today. It's always interesting. We always get more people, and it's always really fun to participate in. But I'll see you guys next week.
Sounds awesome. How about you, Mr. Lugo? Any final shout outs?
Just shout outs to everybody in the chat. Thank you for being there. The discussion's great. Shout out to everybody watching. Shout outs to everybody leaving comments and checking out the articles and the post that we have on the website. Shout out to the patrons for supporting us, giving us the ability to bring you guys more great content and stuff. We got more stuff coming this week, again, leading into the Switch event. We're going to have a live reaction afterwards, which, again, is going to be a big deal because everybody's going to be high in emotion when the Switch details gets revealed. So look forward to that. And, again, thank you guys for just checking out the show every week. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. How about you, Gary? Final shout-outs.
Yeah, shouts to all of our Patreon supporters: M. Collins, Sean Gority, Michael Hatcher, Stephen Ferron, Mauricio Aguilar, Himdil, and Fergus Mills. Shouts to all you guys. We appreciate your patron, and you help us. You know, you help us with everything that we do, whether it's updating the website or buying new equipment or funding our trips to different events and stuff. You guys always help out. So thank you to all of you guys, and shouts to everyone who joined us in the chat. We had Red Infamy in there earlier, and we got some people having some interesting discussions about Nintendo and PlayStation and Xbox and stuff. So shouts to you guys, Arthur and Ali, James Fox, and what was that other guy's name? He's gone now, but I can't remember. Rizwan or something like that. Shouts to all you guys. You make this worth doing every week. So yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, so I'd like to also give a shout out to all of the Patreon supporters as well. Thank you for your continued support. We do have a lot more things coming up very soon. Stay tuned for that. Also give a shout out to everybody that whether they left a comment or watched us live, we do appreciate the continued support. And I also want to give a shout out to Mr. Charles Singletary because he has another podcast that I definitely want to recommend you guys check out. It's called Coins to Continue. Podcast he actually started working on last year. They did their first episode of this year recently, so definitely check them out and give it a listen to it. It's a good listen. But thank you all for your continued support. We will talk to you all later this week. You'll see us again for the React, and look forward to Co-op 190 next weekend. So take care, have a great week, and we'll all talk to you later.
Peace.